Hey, we're here to talk about defensive situational football and the different scenarios and different things that occur during the game defensively and how you can practice and handle those things. So, looking forward to sharing this information with you. Um, Hopefully, it'll be something that'll be helpful and you can take something with you. Um, when you're talking about defensive football, we'll start with down the distances. And it's tough to be a defensive coach. It's tough to be a defensive play caller. Offenses have gotten really good, and they can convert the long yardage situations way better than they could years ago. And I think that in itself makes it tough for the defensive coaches in the down the distance. When they get into extra long scenarios, you got to kind of think to yourself, is this a team that kind of goes for it? Is this a team that has a great player? Is this a team that's pretty conservative? And you probably need to have a plan for all three of those. Are they a team that's going to go screen or draw and just try to punt? You see less and less of those teams now, to be honest, but you do see some still. Are they a team that likes to isolate their best player and throw them the ball? That's probably what you see the most in high school, especially if you go into the lower divisions. They've got a good player and they're going to throw you the ball. So it's really more about double teaming that player, doing something to make them do something else. And then lastly, are they a team that just runs regular offense on extra yardage and they're going to try to hit verticals or do something? Maybe they got a quarterback that is really dynamic and you got to have somebody to spy them. But you got to know, what is our worst case scenario? What are the things that would easily give up 11-plus yards if it's 3rd and 14? What can they do to get 15 yards? Do they have a quarterback that can scramble? Do they have a great X receiver? What is it? And kind of week to week have a little different mindset on how you're going to attack that based on what the team has. When you get into long yardage, 7 to 10, it's really about execution. It's about taking away their better player. Really similar to the extra long. It's just way harder to stop it because any positivity, any completion is probably likely to be close to the first down. So, we would always be ready for the comebacks, ready for the guys running the routes at the sticks, try to take away their best player, try to not let the quarterback beat you if he's a good runner, if you need to spy the quarterback, or if you need to, what we used to call hawk, where we double team their best receiver. If we could do either one of those things, then we would try to go there. Medium yardage is really one of those things where it said this in the offensive talk, but medium yardage is kind of tough because you really got to be prepared for everything. You can get run here, you get pass, you can get deep pass short, you can get medium range passes. A lot of the run games in, a lot of teams will sprint out here, try to give the quarterback a couple of options. But this is where I think your scouting and really can come in, because most teams are going to do what they do in these situations. So if you can really focus on what they had done in third and mediums, you're probably going to see something comparable to that. And this is probably where you do have to defend the whole field, and you do have to defend everyone fairly equal. And it can be a situation where it's tough defensively because you got to be prepared for everything. You can get it to short yardage, which is really, you would think, worse for the defense. But it does kind of start to clean up as it goes to 3 yards to 2 yards to even 1 on what you can expect. Most offenses will run their base stuff in short yardage, and then you'll maybe see one home run, play action type pass. So, we would gamble more in this situation. We would be more man coverage, more let's make them throw it. 3 things happen when you throw the ball and 2 of them are bad. So we would try to make them be in that situation, try to really shoot gaps, get somebody off the edge, squeezing, trying to set the edge, and shut down any kind of short run. When there's only 1 yard to go, you can really tighten that down. There's some different things you could do. You can change the D-line stance. You can, kind of have more of a put their butt up in the air, more of a great get off and hat the crack. If you're more of a squeeze team normally, there's just some different things you can do. You can play 6 down, things like that. But I do think you would treat 1 yard to go differently than you would treat 2 or 3 yards to go. Short yardage is more regular defense, tighten the gaps. 1 yard to go is probably maybe changing the defense a little bit. If you watch the offensive part of this course, you understood we went off on a long talk about what's the difference between when it's third down, not really third down. Now, from a defensive perspective, I think you got to know that other team too. So if it's 3rd and 10 and they're in the red zone and it's 3rd and 10, they have no kicker. So you know they're going for it on 4th down. You don't really have to call that defense like it's 3rd and 10. You can call it like it's 2nd and 10 and just be really generic, knowing that if you maybe sell out and they catch you, they can get the 1st down. So just be aware of that. I don't know that that's as important of a thing to do on defensive play calling as it is offense, but as a defensive play caller, you need to know who is the offensive play caller. Is this a guy that's probably going to go for it on 4th down a lot? Does that change how we call this 3rd down? Or is it a guy that when it's 3rd down, if we stop them, we are getting off the field. This is a great play, great way to end the series. So, which one is it? And I think as a defensive coach, it's probably important that you, just get a feel kind of for what is their general sense on things like that. All right, field zones. When you're getting into field zones, we all have been talking about 3 field zones because I think in the open field, the open field for us would be from about the -10 to about the +20. So, that's 70 yards of it is what it is. I don't think people call plays very differently there. I know some people have different, they call it the yellow and the orange and all these different zones. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I'm sure that works for them. But we felt like there wasn't much of it. Once you get off the goal line, before you get on to the other red area, I don't know if there was certain plays I wouldn't call, maybe more based on the hash or things like that than I would field zone. So I think you got to be prepared for whatever in the open field, what we would call the open field, that 70 yards in the middle. But when you get the other team backed up, you got a couple of options. Some people like to go get them, try to get to safety. We've had that plan before too. Nothing wrong with that. But I do think you need to understand that sometimes the over-aggressiveness on the goal line can create you to jump off sides, which can give them 5 easy ones. Whereas if they jump off sides, they only go back a couple yards usually. So there's stuff like that, and there's scenarios where if, we're being overly aggressive playing man coverage, if they do catch a post or if they do catch an inside go or something, are we going to tackle them or is this going to be a 90-yard touchdown? That could create some issues. So you kind of got to have a mindset of who are we and who are they? And are we going to be aggressive and try to get this 2 points? Or are we going to play regular ball, get them off the field, get them to punt, and then put them in a really tough punt situation or even get a really short field back for our offense and play it more that way? But obviously, anytime you got them backed up defensively, the key is 3 and out. However you think the best way to get 3 and out. I would focus more on the 3 and out than I would trying to get the safety. Let getting the safety happen. I mean, nobody's going to be mad if you get one, but let that just happen and focus more on getting a 3 and out. Because if you can get a 3 and out in high school ball from inside the 10, they're punting out of their end zone. You're at a minimum going to have great field position, and at a maximum have fantastic field. I mean, just maybe block the punt or scoop and score or something. But even at a minimum, they're punting out of their end zone. You're going to start on the 35, the 30, something like that. So the key to backing them up is not letting them get that initial 1st down, which really kind of changes everything. As they go into the open field, get into the red area, what do you call differently in the red area defensively? Well, it kind of depends on what defense you're running. But you should totally take advantage of the fact that the offense cannot throw the ball over the top of you when they're in the red area. So use your safeties in the run game more, play more, maybe just more coverage where you spin the safety down, or you go spin, if you got 2 safeties, spin down to cover 3, or even play man, trying to make sure that you can take advantage of the fact that the offense runs out of field space. It's not coincidence that some of the teams that aren't great at running the ball really struggle to score in the red zone. Now, when they get inside the 5, now you're on the goal line, and I think when you're on the goal line, it's really a let's go situation where that they've got all the advantage and you got a chance to stop them. And if you want to make a great play in the game and a great momentum changer, pick six, any kind of scoop and score, but then the goal line stand is really a way where you can make a huge impact on the game. So if what would we do? We'd probably go six down. We'd probably run something we call 60. And, you could even tighten the gaps and have the guys with their butts up and kind of cutting to just make the biggest piles possible. And then let your linebackers run and make the tackle. And if you can get a stop down there, that's a huge, huge momentum swing in the game. So anything you see there, I think the key is just to rep it. I don't want to act like I'm telling you what defense you should run, because that's not really the intention of this course. You run whatever your defense is, but you make sure you practice being down there on the goal line. You make sure you practice being backed up and talk to them about the importance of getting that 3 and out backed up. Talk to them about how great the chance of winning becomes when you get this goal line stance. Talk to them in the red zone about where they can't throw the ball now. They're on the 15. They can't throw to deep X post. Talk to the kids about that. Put them in those situations and then run your defense. We're not telling you what defense to run. That would be for a whole nother talk if you want to talk defense. This is about, are you working this stuff during your week to give your kids a chance to be ready for them when they come into the game? All right, situational plays on defense here. Different situations you'll see. Swing play or sudden change, which a lot of times is a positive on offense, can be a negative on defense. So if you don't understand what we mean by that, this is a part of the game where, say, our offense just threw an interception. Our offense just fumbled the ball. We just got stopped on 4th and 1. Whatever. Goal line stand, like we were just talking about. And now everybody's all excited on one sideline, jumping up and down, and everybody's hanging their head on the other one. What are we going to do? The next play is that swing play, that sudden change. And so defensively, we actually talk to our kids about sudden change. Hey, swing play, we got to win this play. So if we throw an interception, instead of defense hanging their heads and just kind of walking out to the field, we're pumping them up. We're talking to them about swing plays. The mentally tough teams win this next play. Let's pick the offense up from this turnover, whatever it is. But again, we're not telling you what to do then. We're just telling you, work it. Don't assume kids understand that. Don't think, well, they know that we need them to do that. Well, no, they don't. They need you to explain to them that when we throw an interception, we need you all to go out there and get a 3 and out. That's how you win the game. You make up for these mistakes. We need you to understand that. 2-point conversions can be the most pressure-packed parts of the game. Let's say it's 35-34. We're winning. They scored. They're going to go for 2 to try to win it. Are we ready to play defense versus that play? Are we mentally tough enough? Have we put ourselves on all 3 hashes to, left, middle, right, and ready to go? And I think that's where you really got to be a great motivator, but you got to have great play calls down there. You got to have a great thing, run trap coverage maybe, if you understand what that is, where the corner kind of jumps and plays the flat. We can kind of bait them into that if you think they throw something quick down there. But, everybody else got to play their technique. You got to be ready to go. 2-point conversion, like I said, could be the win or lose the game play. And how many times, if you ask yourself, have we really practiced this? And this could be the play that won or lost the game. Next thing would be 4-minute offense. 4-minute offense means the other team has the lead and the ball. So they enter into 4-minute offense mode, if you don't understand what I mean by that terminology. 4-minute offense would mean we're down 28-24, and they got the ball. We got to get it back. Now almost stripping the ball, things like that, is more important than even making the tackle. Now pushing them out of bounds is more important than making a big hit. Understand how the game is played. When you get into 2-minute offense, it's really kind of the opposite. That means now we're, as a defensive staff, we're ahead. They're behind. Now we got 28, they got 24, and they're having to drive the field on us. Now, holding them in bounds is really important. Now, incompletion stop the clock. We're better off with the guy catching it and tackling them on the short catch, letting the clock run. We would never want to push somebody out of bounds. We would never want to use one of our timeouts we didn't have to. Situations like that. Put your kids in those situations so they understand how that will flow when it goes into the game. It's hard sometimes to practice 2-minute offense and 4-minute offense, but we did a lot of that. We have to do best on best. Just when you did want to go best on best at practice, if you had that capability, this is what I would do, stuff like this. So then you kind of get into these things that don't happen often, but you need to have a plan for each of these. Like, our advice to you is have a plan for each one of these. Practice it and have a plan. I don't think you have to practice it weekly, but you need to practice all of these at some point. And hopefully at some point before you play a game, and then maybe again review them at some point during the season, maybe one a week or something. But if you catch yourself on defense, the other team's in 2-minute offense mode, they're moving down the field, and they get into the last play of the game, they're either going to need a field goal or a touchdown. So in the scenario I said of us being up 28-24, they need a touchdown. And so the last play of the game, they can't kick a field goal. And where is the ball? Is it on the 10 yards or less? Is it 11 to 20 yards? Is it 20 to 30? Is it 30 to 40? Any of those cause different scenarios where you can kind of prepare differently. Last play of the game from about the 30 in, just common sense prevails. You just play ball. We've got to win this play. So whatever your best play call is in that scenario, you call it. When it gets past about 30 yards, you're really looking at some kind of Hail Mary or pitch type play, and you need to be prepared for both. You can't put everybody deep and then let them throw the underneath and just pitch it back. But you also don't need to be overly aggressive, missing tackles like we saw in the Saints game with the Vikings years ago. You've got to just break down, make the tackle, play that last play. If they're not in the end zone and it's the last play of the game, that's a good play for us. And if they start pitching the ball back and all, you got to just break down, play your assignment. And the best way to make that work is to practice that. Get out there at some point in the year and defend a Hail Mary, get a few of your good receivers and your starting quarterback and run some guys down and let them bunch up, let the guy throw it up to them and go see if they can get it. Bat it down. Don't tip it up, bat it down. And then same thing with the desperation pitch play, like get the ball out in the flat somewhere, let them run around, pitch it to their buddy, see if you can play defense with that. If you've done it even a few times, the kids will be much more confident doing it when it's time to go. If they need a field goal, so now it's 28-27, they get to that last play of the game, they need a field goal. Then if they got a timeout, then it's pretty easy. They're going to call their timeout. They're going to run the field goal team out there. Now, you can call a timeout to ice the kicker if you think that'll help. And if you got them in high school ball, I would totally do that because what does it hurt? This is a 15, 16, 17-year-old kid. Now, if they don't have a timeout, remember the clock's running. It's hard to run that field goal team out there and get that kickoff and set and kick. So, take as much time as you can getting up, making it slow as possible, where they don't have a timeout. They're going to have to use every second to run that field goal team out there and get the ball kicked and up. So, because that can be a real challenge. Overtime, in high school, they put the ball on the 15. College, they put on the 25. Both teams get the ball. We're in that environment in overtime. If you feel like, you'd play your red zone defense. I mean, let's just say it just is what it is. I don't think from a play call standpoint, there's much to discuss there. I think you got to put your kids in those situations to be aware that how does overtime work? We talked about that in the offensive part of the course, but how does overtime work? How does it work where one team gets the ball and the other team does? Don't assume these kids have seen a game and they understand that. Explain it to them. Practice it. Let something you do fun at the end of practice one day be like, we're going to pretend like we're the green, if you're, red and white team, the red team's going to be on offense, white team on defense, make something up. let them pretend they're in overtime and try to win. Do something to put yourself in the situation where you can practice these things. It's really important when talking about situational football on offense and defense that you're prepared for everything. You're prepared for the regular plays, and probably between 80 to 85% of the plays are going to be what we would coin regular plays. But when you get into these other situations, the short yardage, the really long yardage, the different field zones, and of course the 2-minute, 4-minute stuff, last play of the game, the team that wins those plays has a great chance to win the game. And I'm going to tell you, we made a ton of mistakes over the years on those situations. I don't want to act like we know everything about it. But I felt like we gave our kids a chance by practicing it. And my pitch to you would be, if you mess up a situation, don't let it be because your team had never practiced it and you never put them in that situation. Let it be because we had practiced it and they just didn't execute it properly, because that happens too. But make sure you're doing your part with that and practice these situations defensively and offensively. I know it's hard on defense because you're counting on the scout team to give you a look, but make it happen. Just make it happen, even if you have to kind of walk through it to show them the situation so they're not seeing it for the first time in the game. I hope you're able to pick something up with that. If you have any questions or anything we didn't cover, if you want to ask more questions, feel free. You can always reach out to us on Twitter, on email, on Instagram, Facebook, anywhere else you can find us. We're here to help and appreciate you guys listening. And this will conclude our talk on defense